Hi, everybody. This is Tim Pauly, and welcome to Testimonies, a weekly podcast. We hope this is one of many, and we have enlightened you about the upcoming guests. And I'm sitting across from one of them today, Deron McBee, whose code name is Malibu. And we talked about him as the original American Gladiator, one of the originals that had started the show and made an ongoing show and successful show for its own right. And from that launched Deron into a number of areas into the entertainment industry as far as movies, commercials, and television. And I get to call Deron a friend and a brother. And I'm proud to say he's here today. He's also served our community as a deputy sheriff. But he does a lot of more special things with individuals that will touch your heart by the end of the show today. But I want to welcome him today. And again, thanks for tuning in to Testimonies. And we hope we keep you for a long time. Deron Malibu McBee. Deron, thanks for being our guest today.
Oh, my pleasure. I mean, you and I have been talking about this for a while, huh, buddy?
Yes, we have.
Man, I just said earlier, I know Sean's in the control booth. You have the coolest radio voice of all time, man. I mean, it's awesome, man. I mean, now it's a podcast, but man, you got this really awesome voice.
Thanks, brother.
Coming
from
glad.
A veteran actor like yourself. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here, man. And I truly can tell you, I love you. You're a great friend, and I'm so glad this is happening for us.
We're proud. We met a long time ago, and I'll let the audience know we met at a night of champions at Azusa Pacific University, where 6,000 kids from the Southern California area came around. I was honored to be the MC for that night in front of all that audience, and Deron was one of the headline guests that gave his testimony that night. And again, we find ourselves right back in the studio doing the same thing today with all of you out there listening and watching. So, Deron, let's start off from the beginning. You had talked to me, you know my athletic career, you know my athletic background and how far it took me baseball and tennis-wise.
Right.
And you had talked to me, that was something that you actually thought you were going to pursue before any of this other thing started in your life. Tell me about your athletic career.
Well, yeah. Thanks, Tim. I grew up with this great delusions of grandeur of being a pro baseball player. And unfortunately, I never really grew up in high school. I was really skinny, and I laughed because I never hit puberty until I was about 17 and a half years old. By that time, I was already out of high school.
Right.
So, I had the talents and I had the skills, but none of the coaches really ever gave me a serious look because I was so small compared to the other guys. So what I did was I thought, okay, so what can I do where I can be involved in a sport, but there's not going to be any coach or any person that can tell me I can't be great at what I want to do, or at least achieve the best of my ability to do a certain sport. And I found racquetball in the 1970s, believe it or not. And that was a super hot up and coming sport back then. And in the 80s, it was just, off the hook. And so I started playing, getting involved in tournaments. And at one point I was up in probably some of the top 10 players in the world at one point in time. Wow. And it was just an absolute dream come true. I loved every minute of it. I played in tournaments and had a great time.
That's great. Did it honor you at any entertainment opportunities when you were the athlete as the racquetball player? I had a friend who was number one in the world in handball. And I was managing a health club, and his name was Nadia Alvarado, and he got a commercial. He got a commercial for that was primetime. Did any media opportunities come about through your racquetball career?
Yeah, I not really. I mean, I was sponsored by AMF Voigt and Exelon at the time, but I think since it was kind of such a new sport, they didn't quite know what to do with it. It was really hard to film because it was so fast. People really couldn't catch it on camera.
Right.
But I would have done one in a heartbeat, because I always had kind of a spirit of wanting to, be in front of the camera. I love getting people excited when I played in tournaments. You know how that feels,
I do. Yeah.
when you're, playing your heart out, you're in the zone and you're just killing it on the court. People are just looking at you going, wow, it's amazing.
Yep.
It's a great feeling when you're making them feel good.
Entertainment and sports go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
You're performing at all times.
Yep.
Well, graduate me from that career, which was a successful one, and then got you into wanting to become serving our community as a deputy sheriff. Where'd that fall into play?
Yeah. So I looked at really what happened was, I mean, I looked at what happened was going through school and thought, well, I got limited college right now. What do I want to do? And I always thought being a police officer was really awesome. And so I had these altruistic thoughts where I wanted to get out there and truly help the community, truly help people, be a blessing, be a good Christian example at the time. So I got in the LA County Sheriff's Department, and it was one of the most amazing learning experiences for me in my life. I enjoyed myself. I was involved in 2 police Olympics and 1 police and fire World Olympics, and I won gold medals in racquetball. And
I was just going to ask you that. Okay, really?
And,
wow.
yeah. It was absolutely spectacular, and I had just a great time. And I liked that part of the job, but there's a lot of parts of the job that I just really didn't care for. I realized very quickly that I wasn't going to be able to achieve the kind of status of helping other people and making a difference for society like I wanted to. So that was kind of a turn off and started to get me in the direction of thinking about wanting to get out of the sheriff's department.
Sure. I was going to ask you about the sports part of it, because that's a big one.
Yeah.
At the Bakersfield to Vegas, did you ever become a part of that? That was the police officers and the deputy sheriffs and the CHP, and it was all type of a marathon where they go from Bakersfield all the way to it was big Olympic part of the Olympic Games.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. No, I was never much of a runner, even though I had real long legs and I was thin. But no, I was never much of a runner. My thing was racquetball.
I got you. How long did that last you? How long did deputy sheriff career last?
So I planned on a career of it, but I was involved in an altercation with an inmate at one point, and through the course of a fight that we got into, I'd fallen and injured my back so badly that I herniated several discs and was unable to come back, really.
Wow.
The interesting thing was that with that type of injury, moving is the best thing you can do for it. So I was going to the gym, I was working out, I was getting in great shape. But the worst thing still to this day, if I sit for too long or if I drive my car for too long, my back in spasms and my legs will go numb and they'll start to burn. And that's because just sitting or standing exacerbates the injury so much. So I said that because what they want to do is put me back on light duty, and light duty means sit. And I just couldn't sit. And so basically I was begging them, just let me go on patrol. Let me, go walking. Let me do whatever I can. And they're just saying, no, you got to sit in a control booth and this and that. And it's just impossible for me to do. So I realized it was time for me to go at that point.
Okay. And that kind of edged you into where we want to talk on your entertainment life.
Right.
Who was the first person that kind of said, this is something I want to go into? This is something I might want to make a career of. When did that happen?
Well, again, it goes back to me wanting to excite people and loving that feeling of getting, the crowd excited and stuff. And I came off kind of a low with the sheriff's department, and I looked at different opportunities. I thought, you know what, I want to get involved in acting. Why not? I was working out, and I remember WWE was WWE before it was WWF was WWF at the time. But I looked at that and I thought, man, I want to get involved in that kind of thing. I like it. They're athletes, they're entertainers. So I started growing my hair really long. I started working out, and I started creating a persona for myself. And I thought, you know what, I want to look like one of these comic book guys. And by that time I'd grown to about 6'3", and I was able to start putting on muscle and working out, and the timing just happened to be absolutely perfect. So I started getting involved in acting, but it took a while for me to book a commercial or do anything because I had incredible stage fright for the first year and a half.
You take some classes to help you with that?
No, I took classes to help me, but you know what? Stage fright is just something innate. It's inside you. It's like either you have it or you don't. I mean, people will look at a list of things that will say, what's the scariest thing to do in life? And one of the scariest top things to do is personal speaking or public speaking in front of people, because it they freak out. So, really, that got me. I would get up there in front of people. I'll tell you one quick story. I went to an audition one time, and I was playing some kind of a Conan character, whatever. And so here I am. I got this long blonde hair. I'm real buffed out, and I'm tan. And yet, when I try to speak my lines, I was like, I couldn't remember my lines. They're flying out of my head, and I'm just so embarrassed. And there's like 5 people looking at me, and they're going, "Oh, well, thank you very much, Mr. B. Have a nice day." And usually, what happens when you stink up a room like that is you have pictures, and the casting director will just throw your picture in the round file, which is a trash can. I was so bad that the casting director went out of her way to call my agent and say, "Don't ever send Deron McBee back here again. No. He's the worst actor I've ever seen." Well,
that's not going to happen today, so don't worry about it. But you've really improved since then, my friend, because I've seen some of your work now. So
yeah, you know what? Here's what happened. My manager pulled me aside, and I went to his house and goes, "Listen, maybe you're not cut out for this acting thing." And I said, "Listen, trust me and just give me some time to work out the butterflies." I said, "I will do this. Just don't give up on me." And sure enough, about 8 months later, I booked my first national commercial. And from there, it was just off to the races.
Wow. Well, congratulations on all that.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I know the stories that go behind that too, because if you continue to plug away, your ambitions as an athlete carried you into the entertainment without question, because your drive to succeed, and that proved to itself. And then after that national commercial, that agent obviously started benefiting from your services, correct?
Right. And after that, I mean, I actually finished with 22 national commercials. So I was really on fire for the commercial. And the time, like I said, was perfect. That whole World Wrestling Federation thing was huge. The whole Marvel thing with the comic book character was just starting to get really hot. And I just happened to have the right look at the right time. And I had an awesome God behind me blessing what I was doing. And really, that's where I give all the credit to, because all the gifts and abilities that I have and everything I do is all because of God's great gift to me. And that's it. And I just thank him for it.
Oh, amen. I called you before Fabio there was Deron McBee, but some people argue that question because I think Fabio was a lot older than both of us. So but I still say that to this day. I could never grow hair as nice as you had yours. I still can't. I still can't do that. But tell me where the American Gladiators came into play. When did the tryout or the audition, and how did that surface?
Right. So two things really happened back in that time, which to me I was pinching myself because I was actually feeling like I was living an absolute dream in my life at that time. I was writing a life cycle with a friend of mine, just like we were here, and we were pumping away. And he's reading a trade magazine called Variety. Wow. He says, "Hey, Deron, man, have you heard about this new show? It's called American Gladiators." And I go, "No, I haven't heard about it." He goes, "Well, they're looking for different characters, and they're looking for larger than life guys. And I know that you're kind of like that." He goes, "Why don't you go out and give it a try?" And I thought, well, sure, why not? So I didn't know anything about it. I went down there and had a big tryout. It was an obstacle course. And because of my athleticism, my, working out, I just destroyed everybody on the obstacle course. Wow. And at the same time, I was auditioning for Conan at the Universal Studios show. So the way it worked out, again, by the grace of God, I actually booked the Conan Show and American Gladiators. So at one point, we were filming the Gladiators on the lower lot of Universal Studios, and I would finish there, and I'd go up to the tour, and I would do the Conan Show all night. So it was amazing.
That's a great story. And you don't know this, I think I've told you in the past, but I actually saw you in the Conan Show at Universal Studios prior to you and I meeting.
Wow.
And I remember seeing that, and I knew that was taken, and I knew you were that person after I met you. And I said, you know what? I watched Deron many times with my son, the little boy. And I said, and to this day, now my son's bigger than both you and I. So,
right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's see you.
I remember seeing you before you became the person I knew you as at American Gladiators. But that's a good story. How long did that sustain you for? How many years did the original American Gladiators hold on?
So the original, the first season I went on and I just had I was a huge hit with the fans for whatever reason. I think a lot had to do with the fact that I just was, laughing all the time and having fun. Whether I win or lose, I was just having a great time. Right. And that resonated with a lot of people. And the Conan Show, to go back a little bit, I worked in that show for about 6 years until they closed down. So that was amazing. I actually left the first season of American Gladiators. I got fired from by one of the producers. He just didn't like me. Huh? He just absolutely didn't like me. And then when they realized they got rid of me, they fired him. So he was gone, and then they brought me back for the live tour, which was sponsored by 7-Eleven, and we started off in Maine, state of Maine, and we traveled all the way through down to California. But one of the coolest times, Tim, was I got to Madison Square Garden. Now imagine this, man, that is like, the place that everybody wants to be, the rock stars, every concert, everything. And I remember standing on the bottom of the floor of Madison Square Garden, looking up at 20,000 people screaming for Gladiators. And it was surreal. It was absolutely amazing.
They get to compliment both the athleticism and the entertainment all in one package.
It was incredible. Yeah, it was really awesome. Awesome.
From that point, I'm going to go into the fast forward. This is going to go beyond what we're going to talk about more of, but I'm going to fast forward to the sense of ESPN wanting to do a 30 for 30 episode. Yeah. I love those shows, by the way. They've done a great job with all of them, on athletes specifically, but with the whole concept of the original American Gladiators. Yeah. Tell me how that came about. And I know you're going to be one of the featured American Gladiators from the original cast. Yeah. That's going to be on the show.
Yeah. It was a huge blessing because about 8 months ago, I got a call out of the blue, and they said, listen, this is somebody so-and-so from ESPN. We're doing a documentary on the American Gladiators, kind of where are they now, a retrospective kind of thing, and it's going to be a 30 for 30. And I went, wow, that's a big deal. That's their, staple documentary that they do. And so they said, yeah, it's going to be really a top thing. We'd like to come in and interview. And I said, absolutely. So they showed up at my house, and we did a little interviewing at the house. We talked about my background. I discussed everything from my, like we're talking about now, through my times of addiction and what I'm doing today. And they came to my church. They filmed me at church. They had me have a ministries thing I did, and it was amazing. These guys were really great people. They really took good care of me. They were nice, and I formed some great friendships with these guys. So I'm just super, super excited about it, man.
When's it supposed to air? When's it supposed to come out?
So we're looking probably at January. I'm believing is around then.
Okay.
I haven't got the final on that, but I think it'll be around the first of the year because they're still editing everything in.
Right.
But it's going to be awesome.
Did you get a little alumni reunion with some of the other American Gladiators that you served with?
It's funny. So when I did this movie called Mortal Kombat Annihilation, one of the other gladiators played a character in Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
So I played Motaro. I was kind of like a centaur guy. And then
Right.
he played one of the guys from Mortal Kombat named Jax. And he and I fought each other in the movie. It was like one of those epic fights at the end of the movie,
Wow.
right? So Jax and I, his name is Red Williams. He played Saber on the American Gladiators. So he and I have been buddies ever since then. Super great guy. He's also a minister. He's changed his life and turned around. He's sharing the gospel all the time now. But super cool guy. And anyway, so I went in for my main interview there where they sit me down and they talked to me for about 5 hours. But before I went out there, they said, yeah, there's somebody in there interviewing before you, so you can't go in. I go, what's the big deal? And then all of a sudden out comes Red. And so they wanted to film us with their reunion coming together, having lunch. And it was just really special. It was really awesome.
I would say that would be one of the highlights right there.
It was just awesome. It was great seeing them.
We're looking forward to that show then coming up in January.
Yeah,
they air those regularly, so you're going to get to see that over and over and over again too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Well, let's get to a little bit more on the emotional side now.
Yeah.
There's some areas that took you into a wrong way of life, into a bad place that you were.
Yeah.
And I know you want to talk about them with us, and I am enthralled to have you do that.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll help others that are listening and watching today.
Yeah.
But go ahead and touch base on that a little bit.
Sure. So, a lot of things, when we have unresolved issues in our lives, they go with us throughout our lives. And something that was really hard on me was my parents' divorce. And when my dad walked away from my mom and us to go be with somebody else, it devastated me. And I never really felt like I had a father after that. And what happened was I watched my mom deteriorate into alcoholism, and my sister became an addict, and so did my brother. And so what I did was try and be the fixer of the family. I tried to, be the best, a perfect person, always doing the athletics and always shining so I could kind of take care of my family. At the same time, I thought if I just excelled enough, maybe I'd bring my dad back. It was just a weird train of thought that you think when you're, a young kid. Sure. I didn't know any better. And so still inside me was this burning anger and resentment that I had, and a lot of hurt, because it was so horrible for me to watch my mom drinking herself almost to death on a daily basis. I mean, you just can't even explain what it does to a young person on the inside. So a lot of me was really broken at that time. And I actually, even though I was a young Christian at the time, I felt very distant from God. I felt like God had betrayed me because what a lot of kids do, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but, in my travels, I talked to hundreds and hundreds of kids, and it's a very natural thing to look at God in heaven and equate him to our earthly father. So when someone says Heavenly Father, you think you're your dad on earth. So if he's a cool dad, great, man, then that makes sense. But, if your dad was abusive or, mean-spirited, then you're going to kind of put those attributes onto God, wrongly, of course. But if you're 12 or 13 years old, that's the way your mind works, So at any rate, I just was scared of this God, and I didn't quite know what to do about all that. But later on in life, I get married to someone that I had a beautiful baby with, and she went and got liposuction done, a surgery done when I wasn't in town. I was actually ministering, and then she died from it. So I lost my wife at a really early age, like right in the middle of my career. So that was another devastating blow that I took. And I really pulled back from work at that time because I had 2 daughters. And so I thought, I've got to step up and be a father for my girls. So doing that, we hit a lot of financial issues. I mean, I went from making a lot of money and being successful to, we were being evicted from apartments, and I lost my condo, cars, a whole thing. But I still knew I needed to take care of my girls no matter what. So it was almost like painful thing stacking upon another painful thing, and I wasn't dealing with them. I wasn't processing them enough. I didn't know how to process them enough. So I think the coup de grace was, I got a call. I called my sister to go see my mom, and I went to visit my mom about 3 years after my wife passed away, and I found my mom dead on the floor. She died of a massive heart attack. And I think that just something just absolutely split me in half emotionally. I started isolating myself, and that's the worst thing we can do is start isolating. What I should have done is gone to my church family and got close, but I started isolating myself. And then on top of that, through all the years prior, I'd injured myself. I'd broken my back, herniated disc, I'd broken my neck, broken ribs, fingers, everything. So I was in a constant state of pain.
I was going to say, yeah.
And so there's another issue, dealing with horrible amounts of pain. Now, before that, I'd been to doctor after surgeon, and they would just say, hey, listen, you need to take this new wonder drug. It's called Oxycontin. And Tim, for 5 years at least, I was saying, no, I'm never going to touch a drug, because I saw what happened to my mom and I saw what it does. And I said, I'm just not going to do it. And for some reason, after about the 5th time when someone said that, I said, listen, I'm worried about getting addicted. And the guy looked me in the face and he said, you know what? You're not going to be addicted. You may become dependent. Mm-hmm. And I go, wait a minute, that sounds like exactly the same thing to me.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Yes.
But I was in such a bad place. I thought, you know what, at least I could medicate my pain. If I don't be in pain, I can deal with everything else. And what I did was I medicated everything. So I took the personality when I dove in to become the best athlete I could, or the best actor, and I became the greatest drug addict I could become. And because I had a doctor who was a big American Gladiators fan, this guy was writing me ridiculous amounts of scripts for medication that I should have never gotten. Now, I'm not blaming him, because I took every one of those things, but I became a horrible, horrible addict of Oxycontin. And I can tell you really quickly that easily the lowest part of my life was I was sitting on my living room floor crying out to God, saying, you might as well take me home, because I'm an absolute loser. I'm worthless. I've become a terrible father to my children. Not that I beat them, not that I, treated them badly. I always kept them in clothes and food and got them to school, went to all their rehearsals and stuff like that. But just them knowing what I had done, they could see there's something really wrong with Dad.
Sure.
And so I knew I'd let them down. And all of a sudden I realized that's what my mom did to me. And so I just remember thinking, if I can go now, it's fine, because I'm a loser. And there was a year there that I couldn't even look myself in the mirror when I went into the bathroom. I literally could not see my own face. And it was like some God, somehow God gave me this little thing of hope. And I knew I had to have a hip replacement surgery. And I said, God, if you can get me through this hip replacement surgery, I'll go into rehab and I'll do whatever I can to get off these drugs. But I'm not going to be able to do it unless you help me. And sure enough, I had my hip replacement surgery. And I don't know if you know about this, but a month later after my surgery, I was feeling really good. I'd gotten off of most of the painkillers and I was really happy. Then I woke up one morning and my whole hip had swollen out like to the size of a half of a football.
I heard hip replacement is one of the most horrific surgeries there can be.
Well, what happened was I got a systemic infection inside the rig. So they had to go back in, pull the whole thing out, pack it with antibiotics. And I spent 5 months in a nursing hospital, not knowing if I was even going to survive or lose my leg from this horrible staph infection I had.
Oh, boy.
So back into the painkillers, back into my addiction. And I just realized, you know what, God, you got to get me out of this. I want to live. And if you pull me through this, I'm going to spend my whole life glorifying you. That's my purpose. I'm going to use every bit of fame or notoriety I have to, talk about how awesome you are and how horrible addiction is, and to stay away from these drugs.
Well, he did it. And thank God he did, because you and I wouldn't become close if you had taken it that day. So thank you. Thank you to the Lord. And thank you.
Thank the Lord. Definitely,
and where you are today, and we don't have to elaborate too much on it, but where you are today and helping others and where they are, and you've made a career now at helping others, and you actually stay at an area where you help people with rehab and going through addiction and what have you, but share on that, please.
So, let's go back a little bit before that. Prior to the acting thing, it's important that people know that I was involved in a ministry for a long time, because you met me when I was sharing my testimony. Yes. So my heart has always been to glorify God, somehow to have a ministry for the Lord. So I was using my acting as a way to do ministry, but I was also with a group called the Power Team. And the Power Team, a bunch of guys that do these crazy feats of strength, blow up hot water balls. I would break bricks on fire and pop soda cans. And basically what that was, is it was bait to get the people to come in, like Jesus saying, you're fishers of men. And then we preach a really strong gospel message to them.
I remember him well. Great show.
It was really awesome. And so my heart was always involved in ministry and always involved in helping people. So it wasn't like I, once I became, clean, I thought, okay, I'm going to help. It was just a natural progression of what I needed to do. And really, I knew I could reach people because I'd been there.
Understood.
I could sit there and look at an addict and when he's trying to run game on me or say anything, I said, no, I've been there. I know what's going on, man. And I know your answer. I know your answer. So let's talk, let's work through it. And so amazing opportunities have been happening. I work in a house, a sober living house. I manage it right now. So we got 8 guys and they come in and out, but they're in various stages of recovery throughout their addiction. And then basically I'm there to counsel them, to help them, to, help them get out, find jobs, whatever, talk to them, whatever it takes to try and help them keep clean and sober. We get a couple meetings every week and they're called Celebrate Recovery meetings, which is all basically Christian based. So we talk about scripture and the love of God, because I absolutely believe with all my heart that there is no way that someone's going to be able to get through addiction and recovery unless the Lord is their savior and their, their sponsor and their mentor. Because without him, what do you have? You just got the world.
It's the rock, it's the foundation.
Yes.
Well, they're blessed to have you. And
thank you.
We're blessed to have you here on the show today.
Thank you, buddy.
No, the stories you've told, and you and I have had many, many deep conversations, but you've really opened up today. And I thank you for that. Thanks for being honest with everybody today where you are.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for listening tonight and watching this show. And we hope something came out of it that has blessed you. And we hope that you are an ongoing listener and supporter, because we'll have many more to come into the areas of which we are here today. And we thank you for that opportunity. And we thank you, Deron, again, for being here as our guest.
Pleasure.
And we hope that maybe we'll have you back sometime soon.
Anytime, brother.
And we'll talk a little bit more and we'll elaborate on what we said on today.
Yeah, can I just say one more thing?
Amen.
Quick, Tim?
Go ahead.
Anybody out there that is hurting, whether it's depression, suffering, addiction, you're lost, you need a place to go, you got to get involved right here at Hope Recovery Center, because Pastor Sean's back there. I don't know if you hear me, Pastor Sean, but he has opened this place up for people for all walks of life. They don't care if you're coming off the road drunk, stinky, it doesn't matter. He's going to find a place for you. He's going to love on you. He's not going to cram Bible down your throat. He's just going to love on you. And this place is a very, very, very special place. So if anybody is hurting, if anybody needs help, Sean, are you out there? Can you give them your number and tell them how to get a hold of you, buddy?
Absolutely. It is 951-603-0031. And they could call, leave a message, or hopefully I will pick up.
Yep.
Or they go to our website, which is hoperecoverycenterinc.org.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Tim. I mean, I've had just a really good time, and hopefully I can turn this around and get your story.
Amen. I look forward to coming in and being a guest. I have a lot to share with you too as well. But thanks so much for the day and to the sharing your heart. That's the most important part of this.
Amen. Yeah.
Well, on behalf of Deron McBee, as our guest today, on behalf of the Hope Recovery Center, of which I'm proud to be a part of, on behalf of the Weston Companies, for Testimonies, I'm Tim Pauly, and want to leave you tonight with God, walls can become doors, and obstacles can become opportunities.
Amen.
And we hope we see you again real soon. Thanks for tuning in. For Testimonies, Tim Pauly, good night.
See ya.